This is another shorter episode, one of our happy hour editions.
Yeah. After work, after our 12-hour shift.
Yeah, I'm tired.
I'm tired too, man. This is gonna be a short one.
All right, this is a good one though. I like this one.
Well, this is a good one because there's not a lot of. I don't know. It's hard for us because it's based here.
Oh, it's local, but it has national
but it's a
implications.
national thing, yeah, for sure. This is about Feeding Our Future is a nonprofit, kind of. They perpetrated the largest COVID-19 fraud scheme in the nation, taking in over $250 million from a federally funded child nutrition program.
Yeah, that's it's just a little bit of money there.
Yeah, so it says it was announced by the U.S. Attorney in Minnesota, Andy Luger. Said these defendants exploited a program designed to provide nutritious food to needy children during the COVID-19 pandemic, and said they prioritized their own greed, stealing more than $250 million in federal funds to purchase luxury cars, houses, jewelry, and coastal resort properties abroad. Yeah.
I mean, so just like all the other COVID relief things, this was a program basically to feed kids that were out of school.
Yeah, so I've got the description of it.
All right, let's hit it.
So in Minnesota, the Minnesota Department of Education, MDE, administers and oversees the Federal Child Nutrition Program. Meals funded by the Federal Child Nutrition Program are served by sites. Each site participating in the program must be sponsored by an authorized sponsoring organization. Sponsors must submit an application to MDE for each site. Sponsors are also responsible for monitoring each of their sites and preparing reimbursement claims for their sites. The USDA then provides MDE federal reimbursement funds on a per meal basis. MDE provides those funds to the sponsoring agency, who in turn pays the reimbursements to the sites under its sponsorship. The sponsoring agency retains 10 to 15% of the funds as an administration fee.
So basically they were saying they were feeding however many thousands of kids a week, right? And they weren't. It was a day, and they weren't.
They weren't.
And they were just taking the funds for pretending to feed the kids.
So Feeding Our Future quickly grew into one of the largest sponsors of meal programs funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It says that the growth drew suspicion from the Department of Education, which denied Feeding Our Future's meal sites applications and terminated some sites.
Which this is crazy because this, as we know now, I mean, this goes all the way up to Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, because he got involved saying, no, you will give them.
Right. So the Department of Education grew suspicious because they went from I think it was $3.4 million
up to 50
in
something
2019 to
I think it's 56 million in 2020.
It was 200 million in 2021.
Total in 2021, but 2020 was 50 million, and then it jumped again.
So it went from 3.4 in 19 to 200 million in 21 in 2 years.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously.
So they tried to shut it down.
And then Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis,
went
involved.
To appeal to them.
Yep.
To go back. Well, then they still didn't. So Feeding Our Future sued them.
Correct.
Right. So they're stealing money, and they sued them,
claiming it was out of bigotry and racist.
Right. Because
the leaders of this are all Muslim. They're all East African.
The lady in charge of Feeding Our Future is white.
One white person,
and she works with all minority groups.
Correct.
So then she claimed it was because she worked with minority groups. So the Department of Education in 2021 had stopped all the payments, but a judge said that he saw no regulation allowing the halt, and he threatened to hold the agency in contempt if they didn't continue paying it.
Yeah, so they got paid.
Right, so then the department resumed payments. They settled, basically, and resumed the payments. And so when it all came out, Governor Walz, attacked the judge, saying, no, we tried, and you said no, and the judge came out and said that is not at all
Of course.
what was said. He, like, Governor Walz got rebuked hard by the judge. Like, you guys settled on your own. You guys couldn't prove they weren't giving any information.
Okay, so this is a very unique thing here, because it was one individual who helped with minority groups, and the majority of these people were well-connected East African minorities in the community. They're connected to, I mean, we've looked at now.
So a couple of them worked for
Jacob Fry.
Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis.
And close assistants of his, appointed to positions.
Yep.
His wife worked for the lawyer of these individuals, and then she resigned from that lawyer as soon as this happened. All this happened. The lady who was the one individual who was this only white person in this entire scam, she was connected to the lawyer of Jacob Fry's wife and to Jacob Fry's wife.
Yep.
Right? These people individually donated money to Governor Walz, Keith Ellison,
Attorney General,
and Ilhan Omar.
Ilhan Omar, some city council members from Minneapolis.
Now, the thing that gets me the most is Ellison, Omar, and Walz all gave their money, the donations, they donated those donations that were given to them by these individuals well ahead of any of this ever coming to the surface. So all three of those well-connected people are like, I'm not touching that money.
Yeah.
I'm going to donate it.
Yep.
Jacob Fry, on the other hand, has not. He's now said, I had no idea this was taking place. These people who worked for me, who I'm connected with in so many ways with my wife, I had no idea they were so shady. I plan to give all this money back to the government and have it spent as it should have been spent. I had no idea. So he's basically kicking it down the road, hoping that he doesn't get caught up in an investigation. Now, the state's, or the attorney that's investigating this is Jacob Fry's buddy.
Yeah, so now it's there's an article about one of an activist lawyer, I guess, in Minneapolis has called for an investigation into both the U.S. attorney and the mayor of Minneapolis with their relationship, and how this is just stopping. Like, so they went to Fry to have him go to the department to vouch for them. His wife is connected into it through knowing everybody. Two or three people from his staff.
Three from his staff. Well, three that are appointed to positions in his office.
Right. They're a city council member. The attorney general's son is a city council member. Like, it was no shock to me that it had to come from the U.S. attorney because of all the connections from
there's no way
Minnesota.
Ellison
Like, they weren't going to do it.
No, Ellison was never going to investigate.
And then
this.
they knew about it.
But here's the deal too. I mean, Keith Ellison's not a stand-up guy, as everyone might around Minnesota thinks he is. I mean, Keith Ellison, if you remember, I mean, he's been accused of dragging his ex-girlfriend out of a hotel bed or out of the bedroom by her hair and whooping her up a little bit.
Yep.
He was accused of being into the Nation of Islam and being anti-Semitic. He was accused of representing gangbangers when it was Jerry Hoff, the murder of Officer Jerry Hoff, representing gangbangers, and there was a lot of corruption. He himself got investigated for campaign issues with where money had went and all sorts of things. That was, I mean, if people don't realize this, Ellison back in my days in the military, he was in he was a senator, wasn't he? Or he was
No, he's a congressman.
He's a congressman. He's out in the Congress.
Yeah, it was Ilhan Omar's district.
Position. So weird that he leaves, Ilhan Omar comes in, and you have this East African connection that's out there in that area, and the corruption is unbelievable.
Well, during the middle of it, like during the middle of all this, Ilhan Omar was like promoting the restaurant that was.
Of course she was.
She was there. There's a news clip of her.
On. I mean, here it is. Ilhan Omar got a whole bunch of people were caught ballot harvesting for Ilhan Omar. She denies it. Ilhan Omar got married her brother to bring him in while she was married to somebody else or something like that to bring him into the country. So, I mean, this is a bunch of corrupt-ass people that are still, I mean, for the first time, things are starting to happen. I mean, nothing happened to Ilhan Omar because she's been taken care of, and the whole squad and everything else in Washington. She's the darling of the day in that group. And Keith Ellison, he's not going to get caught with anything. Governor Walz damn sure isn't going to get caught with anything. I mean,
no,
they've isolated themselves.
Yeah.
But at some point, somebody's getting caught. It's going to land on Jacob Fry's head. And maybe it doesn't, because you know that they're all connected in some other way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
These people all know. I mean, this isn't the first shady thing they've all done.
Right, and this isn't even like this story, this crazy story doesn't even stop there, right? So we have 70 people that have been indicted.
The first 7.
18 people have pled guilty.
18, yep. And the first 7 that went to trial, and I'll tell this story because...
Five of 7
yeah,
were found guilty.
Correct.
Right? However, right before jury deliberations, a juror came to the judge and said somebody came to her house when she wasn't there and gave her a bag of cash. It was $120,000 in cash.
With a note.
In a bag. With a note that said that there was more coming if she acquitted. If they voted to acquit, there would be more coming. So she called the police right away, and then they took the money. You know, there's pictures of the money in the bags or whatever. It's crazy. Then they went to court, and the judge excused her and somebody else, and I haven't been able to find out why the other person was excused. But I haven't seen it yet. But they have now. So that day they took all 7 defendants into custody. Then they took the FBI took their cell phones, and they have now searched 4 homes. Two of the 4 searched were the same house.
Right.
So the same person. Their house was searched twice, and now they're saying that there's 24 more sealed search warrants that are coming out from this thing.
Yeah, somebody's going to get raked over the coals on this. I mean, this is what an East African thing to do.
Yeah.
You're coming from, like, the Somalia region, whatever, and you're corrupt. You're like, hey, man, if I just throw enough cash at this person,
yeah,
and I'm sorry, you're bringing your culture and trying to import it into culture here, that person is scared to death, because $120,000 to any average person is like, you gonna kill me next? I mean, you have this kind of money. What kind of power do you have?
Right.
You know what I mean? So they went right to the police, and now you're screwed.
Now
you just got everybody else screwed.
Yeah. Well, I saw somewhere that all 7 of the defendants had jury identifying information on their phones.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. The judge said there was 7 of you and your 7 lawyers that had this information.
Unreal. How corrupt, how unbelievably corrupt this whole story. I mean, I was thinking that we wouldn't see it on any national news, because it's Democrats and it's minorities, it's East Africans, it's Ilhan Omar's district, it's Keith Ellison's connections and Governor Walz, and it's Minneapolis, and I thought, it's not going to hit any national news, and I did see it on a couple national websites.
Well, I think now with the jury tampering thing,
it's got big.
It's skyrocketed.
Yeah, it's been elevated. So unbelievable.
But
that's a first.
There's a thing in here, but they were going to some website because they had to produce like spreadsheets and stuff with the kids' names, and just going to this website, www.listofrandomnames.com. Like, they have it in the indictments.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And others use like an Excel formula to randomize ages between 6 and 17. Yeah. It's just nuts.
If you're gonna do it, you might as well go big.
But it was like millions of kids in areas that don't have millions
you're getting way
of
more kids that are in that area,
serving millions of meals.
Which is how they got caught by the public education.
Well, there's a quote in there that the lady's like, we had never seen reimbursements this high before.
Wow.
I mean, when you jump $196 million in 2 years.
This again, it goes back to accountability on money being dished out during COVID, being dished out all over the place.
Right, and there's a report that just came out that they were like, the Minnesota Department of Education knew about it, and they weren't, I can't remember how it phrased it, but it was basically like, they didn't feel like it was their job to enforce the law.
Yes, they let it sit
Right,
for a while.
they let it go.
And then finally they brought it up.
Yeah, somebody's like, this is not right.
So, if you look on the internet, it's giving Keith Ellison all these kudos for bringing this down.
Yeah, he didn't do any of
He
it.
didn't do any of it.
No.
And obviously it's I don't know if it's running cover for Ellison and
It's a little bit of that, I think.
and the individuals trying to, not get raked over the coals. I mean, Governor Walz has to be a little upset about this. Jacob Fry's got to be shaking right now. I mean, he's a little weasel to begin with, but he's got to be terrified of what's coming out of this since it's his staff members that are 3 of them are indicted.
Yeah, 3 of the 70.
Yeah, and I don't think they've pled yet. I don't think they've been in court yet.
I don't know.
And then his wife is connected. And then, I mean, again, all 3, Walz, Ellison, and Omar, all received campaign donations from the multiple, not just one of these.
Yeah, it was a lot of the
multiple.
defendants.
And they donated all of that to charity, even before any of this broke. And
It was well before the indictments, but it was after the first person her house was raided.
Right.
And it's funny, it talks about 7 days after her house was raided by the FBI, she dropped her lawsuit against the Minnesota Department of Education for stopping payments. Now the gig's up. 7 days later, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Corrupt, man.
Yeah.
When you think that this is one of those things where it's a local level of corruption, but this is reminiscent of a bigger thing. I mean, there's this level of corruption is at every level of government. Look at Biden and Hunter Biden. This kind of crap that's taken place, that's going to tie back to Barack Obama in this.
Well, I don't know how it doesn't.
The FARA
he flew on
right?
Air Force 2.
Right, and he was the FARA case with Hunter Biden, where the IRS agents came forward and said, "Hey, man, you got to check this out." He's being charged as a lobbyist. Part of the indictment is he was acting as a lobbyist for a foreign government.
Or part of the tax one.
Yeah.
Next week.
Who was he lobbying? There's only 2 people.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, the corruption is, I don't know.
It's crazy.
It is crazy because this is at a local level, which I think you'd probably see a little bit more corruption at the local level than you would at the national level. You don't expect it at the national level. If you're making it into the big leagues, you would assume that people are squared away and they're smarter than this. And the reality is what we're starting to see throughout all of government is, man, the United States be some corrupt motherfuckers.
Well, it's just right there and no one cares.
Well, I think it's been done for so long that people have just let it go that it's almost commonplace, right? Yeah. We talk about it all the time, the no-bid contracts. You're just going to give your buddy some contracts for $1.5 billion and you're going to have stock in that company, and you're going to make a bunch of money, and your buddy's making a bunch of money. And you know what, Democrats? I'm George W. Bush, and this is what's going to happen. And then when it's your turn, you guys can do what you want to do, and we'll just shut our mouths.
Yeah.
And that's really, honestly, that's what's going on.
Yeah, it's just a cycle.
It is a cycle. Well, whoever's in power, they get to do it at the time. And I'm glad it happened at the local level because I've been having a lot of conversations with people in my orbit, family members and things, where I've been trying to explain the levels of corruption and they just will not believe it. That's the thing. A lot of people just can't wrap their head around that their government is doing bad things. They're doing illegal things, inappropriate things. They can't wrap their head around it. So this helps a little bit because now I can say, okay, well, let's just start at the local level. Minneapolis, Jacob Fry, here's your connections, and just go down, the list. It being on the local news, and they can see it at 9 o'clock at night, like, oh crap, they're following this case. Oh, $120,000 in cash was delivered to a juror's house. That's never been done before. I mean, this helps a little bit. Maybe it wakes some people up, and hopefully, at least in Minnesota, it wakes people up to start looking at the bigger picture, because this isn't the first corruption. I mean, there was corruption with Wellstone. There was corruption with all sorts of other people within the Minnesota government that has been swept under the rug for a long time.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe
with most politicians.
Yeah, maybe this is a good thing. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Only if they actually charge a politician. Otherwise, they're just going to keep the plausible deniability, right?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know about it.
Well, right. I mean, that's been the norm, right? Hillary
Mhm.
Clinton with the emails. Well, I didn't realize I had classified documents. And then, oh, well, even though she had classified documents, did something wrong, bleached bit her server, smashed her Blackberries. She didn't know that she was doing that because she was.
Right.
But again, you and I both know that ignorance is no excuse for breaking the law. You
Right.
can't. I don't try to get in my car drunk and kill somebody while I'm driving down the road. I didn't
Mhm.
intend to do that. I didn't know that was going to happen. I
Mhm.
still go to prison for it.
Right.
Unless you're white collar, unless you're elite, unless you're connected, then you don't go to prison for it. Which is interesting to me because, I mean, Jacob Fry's not going to go to prison. He's not going to go to jail for this.
No, he's not. There's nothing going to happen.
The U.S. attorney who was appointed by Obama is not going to.
The first time, and then Trump got rid of him, and then he was reappointed by Biden.
Yeah. So that he's not going to convict Jacob Fry. I mean, they're buddies. So he's not going down. But
No.
you know what? The East Africans, like the minorities that are part of this, they're going to go down.
Yeah.
And they already have been.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a fall guy, except for Joe Biden. His fall guy was his son, and guess what? That's not going to go so well.
Mm-hmm. Unless that Amy Bach, who's the leader of the whole thing, squeals.
Oh boy, wouldn't that be something if all of a sudden we learned like the true insides? Who
She's got to be looking at like a long time in federal prison.
I don't know. I mean, it's another crime where they're going to claim it's a victimless crime.
Well,
right?
it's not just it's wire fraud, it's money laundering, it's all
But
sorts of stuff.
For these types of situations to be expedient, where you're not gonna, you'll see all those sentences are gonna run concurrent. So she's gonna 15 years. She'll be out in 3.
I don't know, man. I think she's looking at a lot of time.
I have no faith in the Minnesota criminal justice system.
Well, this
I have
is
no
federal.
faith in the federal criminal
Yeah,
justice system. I
that's
have
true.
no faith in any of it. So I don't, until they start proving that they're doing the right things, until they start proving that they're following their own. It's not a 2-tiered justice system, and those with connections get away, and those who aren't connected are getting slammed. I don't believe it. I'm sure the people that are guilty are all going to be doing time, just not much.
Yeah, so the leader was charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to commit federal programs bribery, and then federal programs bribery.
And she claims that she had no idea this was taking place.
Well, she was getting kickbacks too.
Of course.
Like,
but she's
so
claiming that.
Yeah.
She's claiming, I have no idea.
Right.
I don't know
Yeah,
where
of
this
course
money's
she is.
coming from.
Of course she is.
Ignorance is no excuse of the law.
Yeah.
That's a crazy one, man. That's 2 local stories in the last 2 weeks that have really popped hot, and with Londrigan and this Feed Our Future, and it's amazing. I mean, this group of people that we have, well, I don't have, I used to have, this group of people that you have in Minnesota that are they're at the top. They're shady, man.
Yeah.
They're shady. Whether it's Minneapolis, St. Paul, whether it's at the Capitol, they are, all of them have some skeletons in their closet.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah.
We'll have to follow it, maybe bring an update.
Yeah, once they figure out the jury thing.
It's amazing. $120,000 in cash.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that the juror didn't just, okay, I'll look the other way.
I don't know. Well, that she thought was a setup.
Fear. I mean, that's all
Yeah.
it is, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to, I'd do the same thing.
I would too. It ain't worth it.
It isn't worth it. You don't know what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, I would absolutely. If they have $120,000 worth of cash, they have enough money to make you disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, it's going to be for less than that.
yeah. Well, it's just members of their community that they're buddied up with that would
Right.
do it for very cheap. So
Mhm.
Bro, this one is a lot of wow factor in this one, just because it's so, for us, it's local,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
just when you wake up in the morning and you find out on the news, the morning news, that somebody was trying to taint a jury pool with cash,
Yeah.
it just blew me away.
Yeah. But
Well, I suppose let's get out of here because I gotta I'd like to go to sleep now.
Yeah, me too.
All right, well, I'm sure we'll have more of these happy hour talks, and we're trying to do a couple small.
Yeah, but we got a couple big ones coming up next week.
Oh yeah, yeah, we're gonna hit some for sure that are coming that are fun to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yep, sounds good. See ya.